Donald Trump to testify in New York investigation into his business practices. Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump Jr. will also testify in Attorney General Letitia James' inquiry into Trump Organization. Former President Donald Trump will testify under oath on 15th of July in New York. Attorney General Letitia James' investigation into his business practices, according to a court filing released Wednesday. His daughter Ivanka Trump and son Donald Trump Jr. will also testify. News of next month's testimony is the latest development in the three-year investigation into the former president's dealings after he failed in an attempt last month to stop her investigation and ended up paying a $110,000. James has said investigators have found significant evidence of wrongdoing in the investigation, which has honed in on whether the Trump Organization misstated the values of its real estate properties to obtain favorable loans and tax deductions. The Attorney General previously said her investigation discovered evidence suggesting that for more than a decade the company's financial statements relied on misleading asset valuations and other misrepresentations to secure economic benefits. The Trumps are scheduled to testify beginning on 15th of July. But they have until 13 June to ask New York State's highest court, the Court of Appeals, to further delay any testimony. The testimony would be postponed if that court issued a stay. Trump and his children had earlier argued that testifying in the civil investigation would violate their constitutional rights because their words could be used in a related criminal investigation led by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and has not been accused of criminal wrongdoing. He has called the investigation a witch hunt. The Attorney General of New York State is asking an appeals court to uphold a lower court ruling requiring Donald Trump to answer questions under oath, after a civil investigation uncovered evidence he may have misstated the value of assets like golf courses and skyscrapers on financial statements. In papers filed late on Monday, the office of Letitia James said it had every right to question Trump, who is appealing against the lower court ruling, as it seeks to determine whether the misrepresented values shown to lenders, taxing authorities and other business interests constituted fraud and, if so, who committed. James is also seeking to uphold a ruling forcing Trump's two oldest children, Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr., to testify. Both have been executives at the Trump Organization. The filing on Monday said Donald Trump personally certified the accuracy of the statements for the years prior to 2016, at which point his assets were placed in a revocable trust, while Donald Trump Jr. was responsible for the statements for the years 2016 to 2020. While his CNBC reported that one glaring example of such practices mentioned in the filing saw financial statements for the Trump Organization from 2010 to 2012 collectively value rent-stabilized apartment units it owned at 49.59 meters, which was over 66 times the $750,000 total value the outside appraiser had assigned to these units. The evidence collected to date suggests that financial statements, tax submissions, loan guarantees, and other documents contain material misstatements and omissions, James's office said in court papers. These misrepresentations appear to have been aimed at portraying Mr. Trump's net worth and liquidity as higher than the true facts warranted, to secure economic benefits to which Mr. Trump might not otherwise have been entitled. Trump's lawyers argued in appeal papers filed on 21st of March that the lower court judge, Arthur Engoron, failed to properly weigh constitutional and ethical concerns about James's investigation. In its response, James's office rejected the Trump's arguments that the Attorney General, a Democrat, had a political vendetta against Trump, a Republican, or that requiring the Trumps to testify under oath would violate their constitutional rights because their answers could be used against them in a parallel criminal, and while upholding the subpoenas would require the Trumps to sit for questioning, they cannot be forced to provide information that could be used against them in a future criminal case, James's office said, and are free to exercise their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, as another Trump son, Eric Trump, did more than 500 times during a 2020 deposition. Lawyers for the Trumps want the appellate division of the state's trial court to overturn Engoron's 17th of February ruling and invalidate James's subpoenas seeking their testimony. While upholding the subpoenas would require the Trumps to sit for questioning, they cannot be forced to provide information that could be used against them in a future criminal case, James's office said, and are free to exercise their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, as another Trump son, Eric Trump, did more than 500 times during a 2020 deposition. The Trumps and James's office have agreed to pause enforcement of the subpoenas during the appeals process. Court papers indicate the appellate court will probably hear arguments in May or June. On Monday, in a related matter, Engoron ordered weekly progress reports from a digital forensics company the Trump Organization hired to provide evidence to James's office, which had raised concerns that the process was playing out slower than expected.